What is up, guys? I'm Rick Kakis, and today we've got some brand spanking new Destiny 2 news, courtesy of the Bungie weekly update that has just gone live, unveiling official information. And this week, it's a big one, and so let's get started. But just before we do, we have a special limited time sale on Advanced GG, the best and only clinically proven gaming supplement out there. For the next 72 hours, if you use code KHD25, it's 25% off all the amazing flavors, including my own Kakis Kiwi Lime. We've got M-Tash Mango Splash, Frostbolt's got a flavor, Mr. Fruit's got a flavor. All your favorite creators have a flavor, so use the code to save money. Buy whatever flavors to support who you want. Everybody wins. Definitely get on it by clicking the link in the description down below. And so let's get started with the news. Now, first things first, we have some huge news about the Vault of Glass. This was the original Destiny 1 raid. It's being remade and reintroduced into Destiny 2 with Season 14, and it will go live on May 22nd at 10 a.m. Pacific. So that is actually the second Saturday after the launch of Season 14, which happens on May 11th. So that does mean you will have ample time to prepare, especially because, remember, the leveling system is changing with Season 14. If you're at the current Pinnacle cap, you will be in the Pinnacle levels for Season 14, so you'll only need to go up those 10 Pinnacle levels, and then you'll be at the new cap. So it should be pretty easy to get ready for Vault of Glass, so hopefully we can have a ton of people trying that out. But let's talk about that world's first race, because there are some differences with VoG compared to other raids. So first off, contest mode will be active for the first 24 hours, so you're going to be treated as a much lower light level to make it more challenging, and you will need to be at 1300 power to be at the cap for all the encounters, which is pretty easy to do. So clearing Vault of Glass with contest mode active is the first step to access the new challenge mode in the Director and the Tempo's Edge Triumph. Completing Tempo's Edge, a curated list of triumphs in this newly unlocked challenge mode, will be how a fireteam crosses the world's first finish line and claims the prize. So to enforce the triumph requirements in the challenge mode, your team will wipe if you fail the success conditions during each encounter. Okay, so a little bit complicated, but essentially anyone can go in and do day one Vault of Glass, but once you beat it, you haven't quite gotten world's first. You're gonna get that 24-hour emblem, you're gonna get a ton of loot, it's gonna be sweet, but then you're gonna have to go back in and select this new challenge mode, and then the first person to beat that and do all the triumphs along the way, that's gonna be the world's first team, and they're gonna win the world's first belt, seen right here. Now, very interestingly, Bungie also addresses a big question about Vault of Glass, which is, it was on Venus in Destiny 1. Is Venus as a planet coming back? Well, Bungie says here, no, there's not going to be a public space for the beginning of Vault of Glass. It's basically being introduced as a standalone mission, and you won't be able to go and explore Venus. Now, moving on from there, Bungie details a bunch of Sandbox changes coming with Season 14, including the long-awaited linear fusion rifle buff. So first off, Bungie actually breaks down the roles of the different gun types for heavy weapons. So you have three different main roles: add clear, which is pretty self-explanatory, then there's single target damage, burning down a boss, burst damage, burning down a champion quickly, or bosses with multiple damage phases, clearing a phase quickly. Then they have this huge breakdown of where they see all of the different heavy weapon gun types lying. So with sword, ammo efficient add clear, single target sustained damage, secondary burst damage, rocket launcher great burst damage, secondary add clear, machine gun, ammo efficient add clear, secondary single target sustained damage. And I could go on, but I'm going to leave this on screen. You can pause and read it for yourself if you want to, but essentially Bungie is saying, look, not every heavy weapon should be good at all three of those things. You can't expect every single heavy weapon to be great at boss melting, because that's just not what they're designed to do. They're designed for other purposes. So with that in mind, let's talk about these balance changes. So firstly, something kind of interesting, they're adding a blue linear fusion rifle and a blue breach grenade launcher to the world drop loot pool, so newer players can actually get those weapons because they were previously unattainable actually. So with linear fusion rifles, here's what they're doing. They're increasing the precision damage by 15%, definitely a noticeable increase, and then they're increasing the reserve ammo by 20%, which means you're going to be doing more damage and have more ammo to do more damage, so their sustained damage output actually went up quite a bit. Next up, we have the precision 450 rounds per minute auto rifles like the Shadow Price. So they're increasing the base damage of that archetype per bullet from 17 currently up to 18. And they mentioned this will bring their time to kill more in line with other weapons, so likely they're going to be killing in one shot less. So moving on from there, we have fusion rifles. So they're increasing the damage fall off start distance for fusion rifles. So this has no effect on a 100 range stat fusion, so if you have max range, won't increase it, but if you have 0 range stat, it's going to be plus 2 meters. And essentially this means you don't need the gaudy range roll to still get a range benefit. So if you don't have that max range roll, you will benefit from this. So a little bit of a fusion rifle buff, especially for PvP. Moving on from there, this is a huge list of things. Bungie is buffing a ton of the underperforming perks. Firstly, subsistence. So this one's crazy. It will no longer reduce reserve ammunition. Absolutely insane. That was really the only downside of this perk. And submachine guns will now receive the same ammo fraction per takedown that auto rifles do. Previously, SMGs got 10%, and now they're moving up to 17% of your ammo back. So, wow, if you have rolls with subsistence, especially for PvE, where you really feel that lack of ammo, and especially on weapons like hand cannons and SMGs, which didn't have a ton of reserve ammo, that perk just got way better. Moving on from there, high impact reserves and under pressure. This is a really interesting one because Bungie says due to a technical constraint at the time these were created, the trigger condition for these is on projectile impact. So essentially the bonus won't take effect until you fire the weapon once. But we have more flexibility in perk activators now, so now they'll be active as long as their conditions are met. You don't have to shoot first. So those should both be more consistent going forward. Moving on from there, the unrelenting perk. So it's now easier to trigger in PvE, immediate trigger on major kills, and it heals you for 20% more. So you got those unrelenting rolls, bring them out of the vault. Moving on from there, sympathetic arsenal, where if you reloaded a weapon, it reloaded your reserve weapons. So now it grants a plus 20 reload in addition to its primary effect. So essentially, if you have a weapon with sympathetic arsenal, it's going to reload faster too, and you also get that benefit of reloading your other weapons. So that's definitely an increase. Moving on from there, Dragonfly. So it now works on heavy shanks and servitors and occurs even faster after the Season of the Chosen fix. So not that big of a change, but certainly more consistent. Moving on from there, Hipfire Grip. Bungie says we're careful not to overbuff this, since when Hipfire is too effective it changes the game significantly, so we're just bumping this a bit more over to the Season of Arrivals buff to make it a more useful option. So you get plus 1 degree of precision hipfire angle threshold, and then plus 1.2 times reticle stickiness, a fall off distance. 1 degree doesn't seem like that much, but for reference, hand cannon aim assist cone angle is 2.5 degrees at 0 aim assist to 3 degrees at 100 aim assist, and you can feel the difference between a 90 aim assist hand cannon and a 100 aim assist hand cannon, so there is going to be a significant change here. Note that precision hipfire angles cap at the aim down sights aim assist cone angle. Complicated, but essentially, hipfire grip is better, which is kind of insane. Hipfire grip is already considered to be part of certain god rolls, especially when you're talking about slug shotguns. The first and last out with hipfire grip, as well as opening shot, is a really potent PvP weapon, and it just got better. Moving on from there, huge changes to iron grip, iron gaze, and iron reach. These are the Iron Banner perks that will give you a big increase in one stat and a big decrease in another stat. So what they did for all of these is they reduced the secondary stat penalty from -40 currently to -30. So great example, Iron Reach. This was the new one introduced this season. It gives you +20 range, but -40 stability. Now it's only going to give you -30 stability. So are you going to be more willing to take that stat hit? Honestly, with a lot of weapons, yeah, you are, because especially Iron Grip and Iron Reach, these were a part of some very powerful rolls, and they just got even better. Moving on from there, Osmosis and Elemental Capacitor. So firstly, Osmosis now switches the weapon to stasis damage when playing a stasis subclass. This should work for any mechanics that ask for stasis damage, but not for stasis ability damage. Also created stasis VFX for all weapon types that Osmosis can appear on, more coming later. Okay, so if I shoot you with a stasis weapon, are you slowed? It doesn't sound like it, but that's certainly a very interesting change. Then with Elemental Capacitor, with a stasis subclass, it grants a plus recoil direction and reduces the ADS move speed penalty. So, better recoil compensation with a stasis subclass with Elemental Capacitor. That perk just got a lot better actually, because a lot of the benefits Elemental Capacitor provides are pretty darn substantial. Moving on from there, we have the perk No Distractions. So they reduced the trigger time from 1.5 seconds currently down to 1 second, and increased the flinch reduction from 30% to 35%. So especially if you have No Distraction on a sniper rifle, that just got a lot better. Moving on from there, Celerity and Bottomless Grief. Now, Bungie addressed this in a previous TWAB. Essentially, the very first perk you get in like a Nightfall weapon or a Trials weapon, there's going to be two options. You get that randomly rolled perk, or below it you can choose Celerity or Bottomless Grief. So you can put it on whenever you want, so it will not like pollute or ruin rolls anymore. And Celerity now grants +20 to handling and +20 to reload all the time if you do have it on. And Bottomless Grief grants a +30 to your magazine size in addition to the triggered effect. Moving on from there, Thresh, they already did this season. Essentially, it actually works properly now. It wasn't working in PvP for a long time. So moving on from there, mods. So Adept Mag, Adept Targeting. So same reasoning as the Iron Banner perks. We were cautious initially, but think it's fine to reduce the penalties. So they reduced the secondary stat penalty from -20 down to -15, and they fixed Adept Mag not granting reserves when applied to a sword. So potentially, if there's any Adept swords you have, like the Trials one, that just got better. Moving on from there, Adept Counterbalance. This didn't feel like enough of an upgrade over standard counterbalance stock, so they increased the recoil direction benefit. So that's good too. Then we've got a couple of exotic buffs. Firstly, to the Mida multi-tool, they changed the Catalyst perk from Outlaw to No Distractions, which specifically on the Mida, because you don't lose your radar when aiming down sights, you're going to be able to ADS for a lot longer and trigger No Distractions pretty easily. And then for the Hawkmoon, they increased priority of the Paracausal Charge and Paracausal Shot buff text, and it was sometimes dropping to the bottom of the list, just so you're going to be more aware of where you're at in that buff. Now, Bungie also has a section here called The Future, where sometime further into Season 14, we expect to touch on the following. So firstly, all shotguns. So they say we don't expect the change of the two dominant shotguns where they replace Quickdraw with Surplus on the Fellwinters and the ASTRO, and nerfing Quickdraw to really move the needle on shotgun usage overall in PvP. We agree with some of the comments that weapon usage is not only dependent on tuning, but map design is also a factor. However, we want more weapons to be viable on all maps, and we can achieve this through tuning, giving special weapons room to excel. Specifics coming later, so potentially expect a shotgun nerf at some point, and to all shotguns it sounds like. Also, Dead Man's Tale. They basically are saying they couldn't fit a nerf into this change with the launch of Season 14, but they're definitely looking at tuning the Dead Man's Tale. Right now, especially with the 120 hand cannon, a range nerf coming, the Dead Man's Tale seems like the next meta choice, so expect that to get reined in sometime in Season 14. And for fusion rifles, they're just basically saying they're watching them. And so guys, that is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.